So before we optimize our code, let's add the registration and login. First, we need to create the user controller and also the request and also the resource and also the routes. So let's start with let's move first to the backend and create our controller, user controller, and we need also, let's first hit enter. Now our user controller is created successfully. Let's create also the request. So make a request, let's call it user or register user request. And also we need a resource. So let's change it to resource and user resource. And now we are done. Let's move to our user controller. So here we need our first function, which is star. The return type here will be a JSON response. And inside, first we get the data and we validate the data using the request, and we get only the validated data, which are the email, the name and password. Next, we create our user and we give the create method the data, and finally we return the response. Let's return the response with the JSON message. Here inside we need the message, which is account created successfully. Now we have our first function. So what we need to import the user model, and we need to import also the JSON response from eliminate HTTP JSON response. And I think that's all. Next, what we need, if you want, we can add here a command. So this function will store a new user. Next one is for the login, so public function auth, and here we need another request for the login function. So let's create here. So we have a request and we need also login user request. Once created, let's go back to our function here. Here we need to use login user request, and here we have the request. And also here I forgot to use the register user request. And same thing, this function will return JSON response, and inside what we need first to get only the validated fields. You can use request validated, but without assigning the validated fields to data variable. So we'll use only the request validated. And next we need to get the user using provided email. So where email is equal to the request email, which is the email that we have received from our form or from the login form. And we get the first user. If we don't have a user, or we have the user but the passwords are not the same, or the password doesn't match, which is the password that the user has provided, and we can check if the password is the same using the hash. We need to import the hash class. So don't forget to import the hash class here. And once imported, so we use the method which is the check. So we give it password that the user has sent from the form. And second param is the user password, which is the password that we have stored inside our database. Next, what we need the, as I said, if we don't have the user or the password, so here the password doesn't match, so we need to add the not. So what we need to do, so we'll throw a validation. So I will show you later how to display the validation form or validation error messages. So we'll use validation exception, and this class has with the messages method, and we will use the email field to display the message. So we'll tell our user that this credentials do not match any of our records, which means that the email or the password is incorrect. So these credentials do not match any of our records. So here we need to import the validation exception from eliminate validation exception. Here it is. Okay. Next, what we need to do, let's add also a command to this function log in the users. So now the user exists and email and password are correct. So we return like we have done here. So we return a JSON response. And inside we display message, or we add a message that we will display to our user. So logged in successfully. And we need also to send the user, so we can display it in the front end. So the user, we can use the user resource that we have already added the resource, and we call the make method, and we can send the user, which is the user that we have here. And that's all. So later we can do something. We can also load the tasks. So we can display the, we can do that. Let's also add so we can display the tasks of our user when he is logged in, because later we will change our application. So we will display only the tasks of the currently logged in user. Okay, so we will not display all of the tasks that we have inside our database. So we load our tasks, and we need also the access token. So if the user wants to update or delete tasks, we need to provide access tokens. So now what we need to do to get the access token, we can use the currently user that we have, and we create the token using the create token method, and we give it a name. You can give it any name, for example, new user, and we return plain text token, which is the token. So this is not a function, be careful, this is a property, this one. Now we have the user, we have access token, and we have the message. Next, what we have, we need another one, another function, so we can log out our users. So public function, log out, and this function what will do, so it will return also a JSON response, and here we will use the default request that comes with Laravel, and now we can get currently logged in user using the request, and once we have the user, we can use also the current access token that we have, and once we get it, we delete it, and once deleted, so the user is logged out, and we return, let's import, or let's copy this message from here and paste it here, and we return a message telling the user that he is logged out successfully. Okay, so these are all the functions that we need. Let's add also a command here, log out users. So we have star function. Star function uses the register user request. We have the auth, and we have also log out. So next, what we need to do, we need to add the request validation rules. So here we have, let's check what we have here. So we can use this, we can copy this line and use it here inside the register user. Let's change it here to true. And here let's paste what we need. We need the first field is name, so required. Name doesn't need to be unique. We need also an email, and email in our case needs to be required and also needs to be an email max. We can use max 100 and unique inside table, which is users. Next, we need also the password, and password in our case is also required. We can use the min, let's give it min 6 characters and max 255, and we don't need the unique. So next, what we need to go to our login user request. So let's close here and go to the login user requests. We change the false to true, and also here we paste. So we have the email, and we need only the required email max 100, password required minimum 6, maximum 255, and we save. Finally, we need to add the routes. Let's go. Where is the routes folder? Here we have the API, and we have here the API resource controller for our tasks. We need also another one. Let's copy this one and paste it here. Here we need to change it to post, so the request will be post. We need also to send the user /register. So the user or the user register routes will use the user controller, and the method in our case is star. We need another one, this one for login, and the method will be auth. And we need another one for logout, and this one needs the user to be logged in. So we'll add it here. We can do something. We can change. So here what we have, user, and this route is using the middleware, which is the auth sanctum. We can add our route here and use the middleware, which is sanctum or auth sanctum. And here we group our routes, use the function, and inside what we need to do, we need let's paste the first route, which is this one. So this route requires the user to be logged in, so we can remove this middleware from here, and we can keep it as it is, or we can remove this slash and use only user. And here we get the request and we return. Let's return. So we need to return the user with so the user will be currently logged in user. We can use the request, but before we use the request, let's use the user resource and call the make method and give it the currently logged in user. So let's remove this. So I think I have changed the language. So we return user and we load his tasks. What else we need? We need also the access token. And access token we can get it using the request, and the request has the bearer token, which is the token. So that's all. When we access this route, so we'll return the user with the tasks, and also we'll return the access token. Next, we need the logout routes. So we can use one of these routes. So let's copy and paste. And here, as I said, we'll be redirected to the user logout, and it's a post request. So here the user controller and logout method. Next, what we need now, we have our routes. We need to add our user resource. We did not add the user resource yet. So let's move to our user resource. So here we have the resource and we have our user. So let's do something. Let's check what we have here. Inside tasks, we have the same thing and same thing. Let's change the user, the resource, and add here the ID. And we need to guess the ID. What else we need? We need also here name. We need email, and no need to add password. So we need tasks. And tasks we can use the resource that we have already added, task resource, and we call the collection. And inside we add when loaded. So only when we load the relationship, so then we return tasks. So when loaded, so only when loaded, so we'll return the tasks. And I think that's all. We have only the ID, named, email, and tasks. So save. So what else we need? We did not add the relationship between the user and the tasks. So let's check here. So let's add the relationships. So public function tasks and return type will be has mini, and inside we return this has mini task class, and we need to import the has mini from so the class is imported. Where is it? So here is it, from Illuminates database eloquence factories has factory, not has factory, but has mini. So Illuminates database eloquence relations has mini. And now we have the relationship between the user and tasks. So that's all for this user controller resources or resource routes and requests. So next, what we need to do now, we need to move back to our front end. So we need to add form so we can register a new user.